Welcome to Get Your Bell Rung, a pro wrestling podcast. I am your host, KG. Tonight, just not another wrestling interview. Tonight is about legacy. It's about history. It's about the weight of a name that helped shape this entire industry. When you talk about men who changed professional wrestling forever, you cannot avoid the name of Ivan Koloff, the man who shocked the world, the man who ended an era, the man who carried one of the most powerful heel personas this business has ever seen. But tonight, we're not just talking about the Russian Nightmare. We're also talking about a grandfather, a man of faith, a man behind the curtain, a legacy that lives on through family. Because joining us tonight is someone who knew him not as a headline, not as a villain, not as a history book moment, but as a grandpa. This conversation is going to go deeper than stats, titles, and historical wins. We're going to talk about who he was when the boots came off. We're going to talk about the hard questions, the emotional moments, the things fans never got to see. So if you love professional wrestling history, if you respect the sacrifices that built this business, and if you believe legacy matters, you're in the right place. I introduce you all to Melodie Koloff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very, very good. I can't imagine the amount of people who want to talk to you because of exactly who your grandfather was.
Yeah, it's more than I ever thought it would be, actually.
Yeah. You know, talk to me about your grandfather. How long was it that you only seen Ivan Koloff as just grandpa before you realized that your granddad is really kind of a national treasure in so many ways?
Growing up, I knew what he did. I mean, it's kind of hard not to, you know?
Right.
You grow up around that, you go to the wrestling matches, you go to autograph signings and play with your Barbies under the table. Um, I thought it was normal. Even like our pizza bingo nights at school, they were Ivan Koloff autograph signings. It
Wow.
just was normal for me until I realized the better question is when did I realize it wasn't normal?
Right.
But it actually wasn't until after he died. I just thought that
Really?
was my best friend.
Yeah.
And when he died, man, that messed me up. It was my whole world shattered. He raised me. I lived with him for most of my life. Man, he taught me so much more that I didn't even realize until after he had passed. You don't realize what you have until it's gone. But I really didn't realize to what level people admired him until all these stories came flooding in. Like, man, your grandpa was amazing. I was like, yeah, I know, but how do you know that? And so I've been on this journey of figuring out how these other people saw him, but also teaching people how I saw him. So it's been really, really fascinating.
You know, after he passed away and you started having all these people wanting to talk to you about him, right? Was it something that was welcomed, or was it something that, man, it's just freaking painful? Memories, as welcome as they are, after a while, they're very painful at first. I lost my dad. It was unbearable for me to even try to talk to him, and he wasn't in the public eye like your grandfather was.
Yeah.
How did you handle that? How did you get through that?
It actually took me a very, very long time. We have this show that a dear friend of ours, a dear friend of my grandfather's, Lewis Moore, he does NCWA in Clayton, North Carolina. And him and my grandfather put together an Ivan Koloff Memorial Tag Team Tournament. It's kind of a mouthful, but it's very successful. I've loved this promotion. I love that, like, their family to us.
Right.
And during COVID and everything, it kind of stopped for a little while, but they brought it back. I actually didn't go until 2023. My grandfather passed in 2017 because it was just so difficult for me to be involved in that. And everybody's got their water under the bridge. I had a whole bunch of stuff that not proud of. It took me a while to get back to being able to hear stories and look at pictures of him. I didn't watch one wrestling match of him until 2023. And that kind of took me back. I said, wow, he was so important to so many people, and nobody else can do it except for us. And so it's been very welcoming. Some make you
Right.
cry, and some are
Right.
just like, oh, that hurt pretty bad. But at the end of the day, I realized how blessed I am to have known him. And it's something I don't ever want to take for granted.
Yeah, I mean, your grandfather was, look, as a kid, there's certain professional wrestlers I fear. Kamala, um, the a lot of your bigger, scarier guys, your one man gangs, your Kamalas, your monsters, really. Your father was one of them. But the difference is I'm sorry, your grandfather. The difference is you had Kamala with all the face paint on, the great Kabuki with all that. Your grandfather had such a presence and was so good at being that heel, being that guy that people feared. He didn't need none of that. I mean, he wasn't the biggest guy in the world, but yet he was truly feared by fans because kayfabe was real back then, right?
Yeah.
Was it weird to know that the beloved of your life, your grandfather, the man who raised you, was also a man, from his era of wrestling that was really feared and hated?
I still haven't fully understood it. I'll look at these promos, and we used to watch videos of him wrestling and promos. That was our thing. I would even like work out with him. Like we were wrestling best friends back in the day. And so I understood what he did, but I always laughed. He made a joke out of everything he
Right.
did. He would even call me at school and leave voice messages on my phone saying, "Oh, like the Americans are gaining on us. We've got to go talk to Mission Summit Reading right away," in his little accent. And I would be like, "Papa, these people are going to arrest me if they hear this. You can't do that." And I would get so ill. But I didn't really realize, like, I watch the videos now and I'm like, that's not that scary. But I realized after talking to all these people, it scared the crap out of some people. And I'm like, I don't see it.
Yeah, it's funny because last year I got to meet Nikita, right?
Yeah.
And we had probably a good 45-minute conversation without his accent, his normal accent. And
Yeah.
I laughed out of it. You kind of ruined my childhood. And I'm going to be honest with you, Melody. Meeting you when you and I first started talking and seeing his granddaughter Ivan, his kind of ruined my childhood as well because you just your grandfather was someone that I said, yes, he's hated, he's feared. But as wrestling fans, as you mature, you get older, you realize that you really didn't hate him. You loved to hate him. He
Yeah.
played that, right?
Yeah.
Without him, there could have been some of the greatest feuds there was.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
when you hear the name Ivan Koloff, do you think of your grandfather right away? Or do you think of the Russian bear, the wrestler, the bad guy?
I don't think I ever can see the bad guy. He will for always and ever be my papa. That's what I called him, my papa bear. And yeah, I don't think I could ever see that side of him that people saw back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, even the 2000s. I was born in the early 2000s, and there's no way he's just this big old guy with a bunch of scars and tattoos I used to color with markers. And he would make me breakfast in bed. And that was my papa. He'd play Polly Pockets with me. So I don't think I could ever see him as this big Russian man with a chain, even though I saw that. That's just not how I'll ever be able to picture
Right.
him.
Now, do you remember whenever you were younger, you spent, again, he raised you. His era was, you could almost say, his era, maybe a little bit of the era after him, was last of the true kayfabe, right? Where
Mhm.
wrestlers, when they were in public and people seen them, they were that character. Was that true for Ivan? And if so, how did you adjust or even understand? One minute he's your loving Papa, as you call him. Next minute, he's this guy that people are like, oh crap, I don't want to talk to you. I mean, he's just Russian.
It's so funny because I don't really know how I separated. It was just such an understood thing. I mean, you'd
Right.
be at the dinner table and people would come and curse you out, and that was a normal night at Parker's. Like that was just how it went.
Wow, I
But
can't imagine that. People would literally come and curse him out.
right there with his
Wow.
family, and he would just smile and say thank you so much. And we all kind of understood what it meant. Like we understood, all of us from a very young age, what he did. So nothing really caught us off guard. It's really on the flip side now, realizing nobody knew how good of a person he was. It's really strange how it's flipped 100%.
Right. Talk to me about not him as the professional wrestler or as the 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 Russian. Talk to me about the man when the cameras were off.
One of the best human beings you could ever possibly meet. And I know that sounds a little biased, but I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I have seen him do unspeakable things that he had no business doing just from the bottom of his heart for people. He would stick out his neck for people. And I think from a kid, especially in like developmental ages, you see that, and that's how you look up to people. And I'm blessed enough to that's how I learned how to build my character. If it wasn't for him, I honestly don't know who I'd be today. He was somebody that was just give you the shirt off his back, and he was such a big inspiration to everybody, from somebody in the parking lot of Walmart to the people in the locker rooms at like independent shows. He was just an all around. He wanted to see people happy and succeed, and that was his life goal.
Tell me something, or if you will, that is, I don't want you to ruin any type of an image that you may want, right? I understand. But is there something that you mind sharing with everyone about him that fans just would not know or even believe?
It's a pretty open book. I'm honestly not sure.
Right.
Without giving too many names, there was a friend of his when I was younger that was also a wrestler, but this wrestler wants to be very disclosed. So a friend of his was in a predicament where he was arrested, and there was a situation to where this person just needed to not be arrested, and it was for something stupid too. And he wanted to be home with his kids for Christmas. And I went with my grandfather and saw him work to get that money to go and give it to his friend. I mean, he worked so hard during those few weeks, but that was just the type of person he was. And not many people know that. So that fully encompasses who he was as a person. Didn't matter who you were. He really hadn't worked with this person too much either. But somebody says, hey, I really need help. And he says, okay, you've got it. That was the kind of person he was.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. Do you remember ever there being a time, because he was so over, because people really believed that, he was the Russian bad guy, especially during that time when you're talking about the Cold War and stuff like that, right? Was there ever a time that someone called the cops on him just because they seen him? Do you ever remember anything like that happening?
I don't know about calling the cops on him just because they'd seen him. I'm sure it did happen back in the day. I mean, people tried to flip his car over. People threw ice skates at him and hit him in the head, threw nails at him. So I'm sure something like that has happened before. But by the time I came along, it was more, he's an old man, I can take him, and they'd come up all big and bad.
Right.
Or they'd realized, this is just an old man with his grandkids. There was really no in between there. But I don't recall anybody calling the cops, no.
You're fairly young, so obviously you weren't alive during probably one of the biggest moments of his career, which was him defeating and ending Bruno Sammartino's reign as champion, right? That really changed an era in professional wrestling. Even though you weren't born back then, because you are so involved, what does that moment mean to you as his granddaughter?
I'm really still trying to wrap my head around that one, to be honest with you. Like, you hear it talked about, and he taught me that moment numerous times from his own humble perspective.
Right.
He always, I did book reports and history reports on it because I was that person in elementary and middle school. I was like, this is so cool. And he would get so flustered about it, like, no, baby, that's not real history. It's fine. Now I'm realizing how much of a lie that was. But, yeah, he constantly told me about it. And so I understood what happened. But now hearing other people's perspectives of it, I'm realizing just how important the fans are in this whole industry. If it wasn't for them reacting how they did in that moment, a lot of my life wouldn't look like it does now. So I'm having this newfound gratefulness for not just what my grandfather did, but the people that gave him that. So it shifts my perspective a little bit now to hear their takes and their stories of that night. It's really fascinating.
And this may be a little bit of a difficult question for you to answer. And if you don't feel comfortable, that's fine. Please, just say, I don't want to answer that. Do you feel like WWE has done enough to honor your grandfather? Because I've always said that both Ivan and even Nikita Koloff, they should be more of the conversation when it comes to legends and the greats of professional wrestling. Professional wrestling would absolutely not be the same, especially if there was no Ivan Koloff. It just wouldn't be. Saying all of that again, do you feel like, a company like WWE has done enough to honor him and his history in professional wrestling?
I get asked this question more than you would think. Um, the answer that we've come up with, we are extremely grateful and humbled because WWE did not have to. We honestly had kind of accepted they weren't going to put him in there. And there's really no negativity there. My grandfather said he was in the Hall of Faith, and he said it's just a title. And
Right.
he would have liked to have been in there with his friends, and he never got to see it. But I think he was fully content with having a good family at home and having good people that supported him. He knew what he did. And fans and coworkers alike gave him enough support for him to feel like he didn't need it.
Mhm.
However, when they did give that to him after he passed, it did change my family's perspective a little bit of, you know what? It's been almost 10 years after this man has died and he's still being talked about. I think that's more of an honor, him being in
Right.
any conversation. I don't take any offense to him being in any type of wing that's been a conversation. We are extremely grateful that they are still including him in topics of conversation. And
Right.
arguably, they helped give this enough rocket fuel, this tour. And honestly, with what I'm doing too, I couldn't do any of this without the help of WWE reigniting who he was. So we are extremely thankful for what they've done.
That's absolutely awesome. Bob Cook, who is one of my co-hosts, says that he had the opportunity. He's worked with Ivan a few times. Awesome guy in and out the ring. You're,
Absolutely.
if you were able to stand up on the stage in front of however many people and induct your grandfather into the Hall of Fame, any Hall of Fame, don't
Mm.
matter, any. What would be the key things that you would make sure that you would want to hit to
Mm.
highlight who your
Ooh,
grandfather was, not just as a professional wrestler, but as a person?
yeah. We did briefly think about that when we got the call about the Hall of Fame because we're like, we've never done anything like this.
Right.
And I'm more of the PR spokesperson for my family. And so I was like, oh, what do I say? And I say, thankfully, I would love to do it now that I'm more well versed in it. But I really didn't know if I'd be able to because this is somebody that I love so much. I honestly don't know if I could get up there and do something without crying. But now that I'm a little more well versed in PR and speaking to people and it's become something I love, I would really want for people to know he would want to use this as a way to inspire other people to chase your crazy dream, believe in yourself when no one else believes in you, and just every day keep faith and passion hand in hand and you'll succeed in anything. I think that's really what he would want me to say.
Yeah. Was there ever a time that you feel like the fans ever crossed the line because of who your grandfather was?
Like with him or with me personally?
Both. Because obviously it would affect you
Yeah.
being who you are.
I would say with him, if they did cross a line in the sand, he kicked the sand with his foot. He loved it. He loved
Yeah.
being pushed out of his boundaries. I mean, even people coming up to you at your dinner table, he would smile and wave, and we all understood just shut up and eat your dinner, and we'll finish talking later. Um, I mean, he really didn't have many boundaries. He loved being hated, which is, he was such a strange man because of that, but he truly loved it. The more hate he got, the more he loved it. So I don't think there was a line in the sand with him.
Right.
Um, I have had some weird things come across, because all these years later, but I really am starting to blur that line a little bit as well. I mean, it comes with the territory of wrestling and you ignore the strange things and just keep going. But I mean, I haven't had anything crazy happen yet, so.
Whose idea was it to do what you guys are doing, which is huge? I love what you all are doing right now, which is the Koloff family reunion.
Yeah.
How did that start? Whose idea was it, and how did you guys put everything together?
So crazy enough, it was completely a God thing. That first and foremost, it was a God thing because I've been working myself on doing legacy stuff since 2023 and had no clue what I was doing. And I said, I've just got to do something, talk about my papa. And I do little legacy shows here and there, working on a whole bunch of stuff. And out of the blue, Neil Koloff calls us and says, hey, we have a guy. His name is Leon. He's with um, New Breed Talent Agency. and he wants to take the Koloffs on tour. And my jaw just, I said, no way. Because I hadn't talked to Neil since 2020. Hadn't talked to Nikita since the funeral. I mean, I hadn't been in contact really with any of them other than just a Facebook post and a like here and there. And so for everything really to come together, we are so grateful for Leon and for all of the guys, Nikita, Vladimir, Neil, for just helping put all of this together. And I think we're going to be strong as a family and do some amazing things.
Talk to me about those that are part of this. You mentioned Neil. Mm-hmm. Who else are part of this?
So Nikita Koloff. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you got to have Nikita to have the Koloffs, right? The Russian Nightmare is essential to the Koloff duo. Yeah. So excited. So excited. I'm glad he doesn't have hair this time. The first time I met him, he actually had hair, and really? I didn't believe it was him. Yep. My papa said, oh, go talk to him. I said, who is that? He said, that's Nikita. I said, no, it's not. So I'm glad he doesn't have hair, and I can recognize him this time. But he's going to be a part of it. Extremely excited. He does his ministry stuff, and that's his life now, and that's amazing. And so for him to be able to also do this is something extremely, extremely God-given, and we're so grateful for that. Then we've got Vladimir, who went with Nikita as the Russian Bull. I believe that was in the 80s, and he's amazing athlete. If you get to watch his videos, I'm sure you have. But amazing dude, and I'm so excited. I've never actually met him. He's met my mom before, but we really weren't in contact by the time I came along, and so I get to meet him for the first time. Cousin Vlad, I love him. Then Neil was actually part of the Koloff dynasty. And there's another guy named Alexander, but he unfortunately doesn't wrestle anymore. So we've got Neil Koloff, who has taken up the Koloff name. He shaved his head and everything. And man, he's a Russian dude for sure. He is bad to the bone, Russian dude, and amazing guy also.
Now, the Koloffs right now, because this is what I find interesting. Again, your grandfather was known massive bad guy, heel. Nikita Koloff was that until, unfortunately, the accident that retired, who would have went on to be one of the greatest, if not one of the greatest professional wrestler of all time, which is Magnum TA. Yeah. That puts Nikita into being one of the biggest baby faces in the history of professional wrestling, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How are you guys balancing that? Because again, the Koloff reunion, you have your grandfather, boo, Nikita. What are you guys doing about that? Are you guys the baby faces? Are they heels? Talk to me about that.
I don't know. See, I've been telling people it's up for interpretation. You don't know what's going to happen. The Russians definitely have some tricks up their sleeves. You're going to hate to love us, and you're going to love to hate us. And I'm really excited to see how people interact to some of the things that we've got going on. And it's up for interpretation. I can't tell you what to think about it quite yet.
You know what, Melody? You are definitely get professional wrestling from your grandfather, because that was probably the most professional wrestling answer you can ever get.
Thank you
for that.
That's funny.
Your grandfather, he became a Christian later in life. How did that transformation impact your family?
It actually defined my family. I don't think there could have been in my family if he hadn't. Definitely, it got us on the right path for sure. He couldn't have been my papa if he wasn't the Christian man that he was. I mean, I also went to wrestling matches, but if it was a Sunday, I was with my parents that are gospel singers. His daughter, my mom, is a gospel singer, and she still does that. But if I wasn't with them, I was with him in some church, because he loved inspiring people, not just in their passions, but in their faith. And so that's something that my family really holds dear to us. And he also struggled with addiction and alcohol abuse, and he actually died from liver cancer, because even if you're saved, there's still consequences for some things, and he understood that. But his whole life was because of Jesus saved him, and that's how we were able to be his family. I truly believe God saved him to be our grandfather and our dad.
Was there any tension or struggles between the Russian villain persona and his ministry later on?
Crazy enough, no. People, I think nostalgia definitely saved him a little bit there. it definitely gets people's attention. I've been in many, many services to where people are like, just kind of looking sideways a little bit like, what? And it definitely gets their attention because he'd go up on the pulpit and have his Russian accent on, and he would slowly fade it out to his American accent. And by the end, you're like, wait a minute, where'd the accent go? And I would be in my seat giggling and giggling. I thought it was so funny, and people would come up, how'd you do that? But he loved it. I don't think it ever interfered with it though. It was more of a factor of surprise.
Do you mind talking about his death? Are you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make
Probably
sure.
shouldn't be, but yeah.
Before we go into that, though, talk to me about Melodie. Who are you?
I am the product of my grandfather for sure. I mentioned he was my best friend. I don't think that fully encompasses it. Um, you definitely have some parts in your life where you stray, but once I found wrestling, everybody in wrestling I find has a story of how wrestling saved them. And I've never known it to be more true. You would think it would have saved me back when I was a kid, but my grandfather gave me all the steps that I needed to after I had my crazy time of life, it saved me again. It definitely helps get you grasp on life. And I'm definitely somebody that just tries to make my grandfather proud every day of my life, which through and through I think describes who I am.
Did you ever, even as a child, did you ever think about following in his footsteps and becoming a professional wrestler?
You know, I actually just had somebody ask me this a couple of days ago, and absolutely not. He said, use your head, not your brain, or not your body. Use your brain,
Right.
not your body. I think you see somebody you love struggle to get to the kitchen chair and struggle to stand back up. I mean, he couldn't even get his wallet out of his pocket. I mean,
Right.
he was beat up, and that wasn't understood as well. But he would always say, don't do it." Like, I don't think he would ever approve of me being a wrestler. But
Right.
definitely the business. He would teach me psychology and points of that. He always said, "Use your brain, not your body." And I don't know, that just kind of stuck with me.
Yep. Was there any type of pointers or advice? I mean, obviously, the advice he's given you throughout life has helped you,
Yeah.
but was there any type of pointers or advice that he took from professional wrestling that he passed on to you that's helped you in your life?
Everything that ever came out of his mouth was through a wrestling lens.
Right.
I used to work out with him when I was a kid. Probably shouldn't have, because I probably shouldn't have that young. I mean, he was like 3 or 4 in the gym with this
Right.
big old wrestler. But we'd be in there and he'd just be talking and telling me stories about all his friends. He had posters all on the wall. He'd be telling me stories and little things would slip out, like, when your chin hits the mat, get back up. Or his favorite thing was got to stay strong like bull. And I never understood what that meant. I thought he was saying, we're lifting weights, you got to be strong like a bull. And I noticed he would say it even if I was upset about something like a bad grade on a math test. He's like, well, you got to be strong like bull, strong like bull. And I never really understood what he meant. I was like, okay, Papa, like whatever. But it wasn't until after he died, I was like, he was onto something. And you start to realize what that means of you've got to be strong like a bull. The bull doesn't know why it's plowing the field, but it's got to do it anyways.
Right.
And it definitely stuck with me, but they were all wrestling adages, 100%.
Yeah. When your grandfather passed away in 2017, what was the hardest part for you personally? And I'll give you an example for myself. When my dad died, one of the hardest things it sounds so silly, but I'm originally from Louisiana, living in Minnesota, and every year when I was in Minnesota, it snowed, I called my dad because my dad loves snow.
Mm.
After he died, I swear for the first 3 winters, I'd pick up my phone like I was going to call him, like, did you what was the hardest part for you? Did you go through those type of things?
Yeah, for sure. There wasn't any one thing that I did with him. It was every day. Every Monday we'd go grocery shopping. Every Wednesday was our favorite restaurant. When he died, my whole entire world, I was like, well, what do I do now? It was really, really rough. I remember going to high school was maybe one of the hardest things. I always talked about, my grandfather. I was like, well, when I get married, you're going to walk me down the aisle. And he's like, okay, baby. And I was like, when I drive, I'm going to drive you everywhere you want to go. He's like, okay, baby. So definitely hitting those milestones, like my first day of high school. He'd taken me to band concerts previously, like in middle school and elementary school. But that first day where he wasn't there, whew, that messes with you. And you realize there's not any more milestones he's going to see. You know, he was there for your first steps and your first chorus concert, but he won't see you graduate. He won't see you get married. That definitely, those realizations, I don't think the hardest part of somebody dying is the first few days. It's every moment after that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
definitely the little moments after. I don't think it'll ever stop being difficult.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Is there something that you wish you would have asked him or did with him before he passed?
I have a whole list. If I could talk to him now, he'd probably tell me to shut up. Be like, just go to bed. I get so invested in this industry and I'm like, well, how did you do this? The biggest thing I would like to ask him is, what were you thinking? What were you feeling? Like, what was it going on inside your head when you go and do these things? What was that first night you go to sleep after you win in Madison Square Garden against Bruno? What were you thinking?
Right.
That's definitely, I have those moments quite often of like, even people like good friends of his. I'm like, what were you thinking when you first met them versus the last time you saw them? So that's definitely a big question I would ask him is what was going on inside that bald head of yours?
Do you feel a lot of pressure? Do you feel like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, carrying that Koloff name?
Yes and no. I don't feel like there's pressure. I think there's definitely big boots to fill that I don't think I'll ever be able to. But I think understanding that, but still trying my best anyways, there's been such an outpouring of love from people and support that I never could have imagined. I was just doing this talk about my grandpa every day of my life. Never could have imagined where it'd go. So there's not as much pressure as much as a legacy to uphold.
And part of my crew always gets on me, but I'm just an honest guy. Professional wrestling fans are some of the best fans in the world, but at the same time, they're some of the most critical pain in the butt fans as well. Saying that, and fans, this is me saying it, she did, I'm saying it. Do you feel yourself getting protective when you have today's fans? You hear them try to critique him and his wrestling style back in the day?
I've never come across that actually, which it
Well,
might sound
nice.
kind of arrogant to say, but I've never heard anybody say anything negative about my grandfather. And if they do, it's actually kind of a compliment, crazy
Right.
enough. I mean, he's doing his job right, you know?
Right.
I mean, most people, if you hear, man, I hated your grandfather, you're like, oh my God, why? But I'm like, he did his job right. That's what he would have wanted. So
I'll
I've
be
not come
honest
across
with
that.
you. I'd be scared to criticize the late Ivan Koloff too, because you're Koloff. There's a Koloff, the Koloff family, pretty scary family. I mean, you know, is there something about the politics in professional wrestling that you heard your grandfather, the great Ivan Koloff, not really complain about, but you know who kind of bothered him?
He wasn't much of a politics man. Um, Not politics as in like he said, she said, this and that. Um, he definitely in the 90s of WWE. I remember us watching like the early 2000s, and he was just like, what's going on?" Definitely like the Austin 316 stuff. Definitely rubbed him the wrong way, and he was really upset about that, saying, "This is such a good business. Why are they doing this? You know, it's insulting." And I think there was a point maybe in history that he wasn't fond of because he worked so hard for something, and he's like, "Well, what did I work hard for if you're going to throw it down the drain?" But he
Right.
still understood there was an art, and I don't think he ever gave up hope that it could be saved. But there was
Right.
definitely times where he sweat a little bit worrying about it.
Yeah. Do you think today's wrestling generation truly understand what heals like your grandfather sacrificed? Because look, again, much different world back then. Your
Mhm.
grandfather being so the guy he played it being hate, he gave up safety, his security. Um, at the same time, because he was so good at what he did, kind of man gave up the time with his family. Do you think today's professional wrestlers really truly understand the exactly the role that people like your grandfather pays for them, so that yeah, they still have a very busy lifestyle, but it's not nearly as busy as it was like the
Mhm.
generation of your grandfather?
I don't think they fully understand. No, um, mainly because their safety is not at stake, which is a good thing that they don't understand.
Right.
Nobody wants to have their car flipped over or have people try to kill them. It's not something that's they're envious of, I'm sure. But I don't think they understand really the full complexity of being a heel inside and out of the ring. The only person that I've seen in today wrestling that I'm like, I really like how you do that from like a heel philosophy. Crazy enough is Logan Paul. I know that's kind of a left field thing.
No, I get it. Logan
He's doing an
Paul.
outstanding job as a heel, and I'm like, he might be one of my favorite wrestlers. Crazy enough, I never thought I'd say that about a Vine star from back
Look,
in the
I
2000s.
when he first got professional wrestling, I'm like, really? I
Yeah,
wasn't. I'm 53. I'm not. I'm really not big into the crossover thing, right? But man, he took on like he was born to do it. And you right,
yeah,
there was a moment a while back I thought they were about to turn him to a baby face. And I'm like,
hmm
please don't.
yeah,
Because he's one of the few guys that's a heel that I feel like it was like your dad. I love to hate the guy because
yeah.
he's so good.
And I
Okay.
think one of the reasons that works so well, you think about the Cold War back in the day, that's why the Russians took
Oh
off
yeah.
like they did. There was genuine hate behind it. They already had hate before they even existed,
Yep.
really. And I think wrestling has a way of using that. And I think Logan Paul is one of the only people I've seen in modern day wrestling to where they feed off of hatred for his own personal persona, whatever they've got going on. And I really like how they use that. And they did a
Yeah.
very good thing not turning him face. I'm very glad they didn't.
Right. Right. What would your grandfather, or what did your grandfather, again, the great Ivan Koloff, what did he think about modern day wrestling?
He he watched it. There was a period of he died in 2017, so he didn't get to see. I think he would really enjoy, honestly, some of Triple H's reign of it. Um, there was definitely some blips there that he didn't care for, like the Austin 316,
Right.
and it was more dramatic, less wrestling. I think he was somebody that was more. You didn't have to say a thing in the ring, you work. And not saying that either is right or wrong, but that was more of what he laid the
Mhm.
foundation for. And I
Right.
think that's he would be a little turned off from it more so now than it was back in the day, just because of you use
Right.
your body more than your mouth.
Right. Right. No, I completely agree. It's something I've been saying for a long time. One of the biggest things I've changed about professional wrestling is back in the day, um, those guys told stories in the
Mhm.
ring when they were
Yeah,
wrestling. Today's professional wrestling is more about getting the high spots than actually telling the story.
yeah.
So I completely agree. What do you want younger fans to know about Ivan Koloff?
Um, I definitely want younger fans. Crazy enough, I want you to learn the heel because he's an amazing person to hate. But I want you to take away how much he loved what he did, how passionate he was. In his later years, that was something he was adamant about. Was showing people how to chase your passions, showing people how to chase your dreams when it's absolutely nuts. That's what I want people to take away as well. Look at what he did in his life. I want to do that too. I want to do the crazy thing. I want them to take that away from his legacy.
Right. Have you thought about a book?
There are some things already in the works. So yes,
That's awesome. Make sure you let me know about that.
absolutely.
How do you want his story told 50 years from now? 50 years from now, when they're talking about the legends, the greats, they're not having a serious conversation unless Ivan Koloff is in that conversation.
Yeah.
If there was if mostly everything about Ivan Koloff was kind of forgotten for whatever reason, what is the one thing that you think should be remembered 50 years from now throughout time?
How many people chase their passions because of him? There are a lot of people, especially in the indies over here, especially in the Carolinas and Tennessee and Georgia. There's so many people being affected currently still by the Koloff name. I think that's going to end up making its impact on history. And seeing how many people the Koloff name inspired and produced is more astonishing than even what he did at Madison Square Garden, if you can believe it. I think in 50 years, that's the goal for what he started to never stop.
What was his real relationship like with Nikita Koloff? Cameras are off.
They're besties. I remember numerous phone calls. He'd be in the kitchen, and I'd start making breakfast for us or whatever, and he'd be like, shh, 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 it's Nikki on the phone, it's Nikki on the phone. And you were used to him just making phone calls in the kitchen, but I remember hearing Nikita's voice quite often growing up.
Yeah. Is there something that Ivan carried with him that was maybe a regret, just something that he was really hard on himself about, that he could just never let go?
He was actually the master of letting stuff go, especially after he found Jesus. I think that really helped him turn his whole life around. Everybody does stuff they're not proud of. There was things in his past that definitely haunted him, but I don't think he held on to anything or had any regrets. He had a family that loved him, and we were his whole life. Just as much as he was my best friend, I believe I was his as well. And my grandmother, he loved her so much. My mother, we were a good family. And I think he doesn't have any regrets, truthfully.
Talk to me about some of the, professional wrestlers from the past that you've been able to meet. And even though your grandfather was who he was, and you kind of knew, behind the curtain stuff that most people don't know, was there one particular professional wrestler that just intimidated you?
Barbarian was one that scared me as a kid. I saw him quite often, and I was always kind of standing behind my grandpa a little bit. The face paint definitely scared me. Intimidating me, though? I really don't think any scared me, but that's probably just because I was used to there being a Russian chain in the back seat beside me, so it might be kind of hard to be scared after that.
Right. Who's besides Ivan or Nikita, who's your favorite? Did you have another favorite?
Of Koloffs or just wrestlers?
Wrestlers.
I actually loved watching videos of Bob Backlund. Bob Backlund and Ivan Koloff matches, all-time favorites. Like, I'll still sit and watch them for hours. That dude is an outstanding athlete, and I swear that dude just gets up every time he's down. Like, the stamina on that dude is insane. So I definitely would say, from past and present, he is by far my favorite wrestler that's not my grandfather.
Right. Do you find that you kind of lean towards old school wrestling versus current wrestling because of what you grew up with and because of your grandfather?
Actually, not necessarily. I'm more of the business side of it. And so I love watching old school wrestling for like the physicality part of it. Like there's some good technicality there. But in the indies, especially in the area that I'm in, there's some good wrestling. But when I watch wrestling, the business side of it, I'm like, oh, that was nice. I see what you did there. That was nice. And I definitely have taken more to the psychology and the business side of wrestling than the technical side. But I can appreciate the technical of any side of wrestling right now.
Yeah. Talk to me about the NWA, because I know you guys really worked with the NWA. Talk to me about what's going on with the NWA. They're on Roku, right? Do you get along with the talent there? What about I can never remember his name. The owner, Billy Corgan.
Billy Corgan, yeah.
Yeah. Talk to me about your relationship with him as well.
So I've not actually met Billy, but I do stay in contact with people from NWA quite often. Actually, one of my best friends is in NWA. Great people, great talents too. They've done a great job at putting together amazing shows. I love the Roku, the tapings and stuff like that. Outstanding talents. They've done an outstanding job. Even the Mortons have gotten in over there, and I love it. It's a great business, and they're really redefining what old school wrestling is when it meets the modern style. And that's something I don't think anyone's been able to capture like they have. It's amazing. I love watching it. I love being a part of it.
Now, let's go back to the Koloff family reunion tour that you guys are doing. Is there one person within the family that reminds you of your grandfather more so than anyone else? And I'm talking about every aspect of the way. Personality. ring style?
Crazy enough, Neil is he's the baby Koloff, but he reminds me with his spunk, with his spontaneity, with his passion. Even in the ring, I was watching a video of him the other day, his ring presence, the way he just captivates a moment. I've really not seen that since my grandfather. And I haven't even told him this. He's going to watch it and be like, oh, you didn't tell me that. But I mean, obviously, Nikita and Vladimir are outstanding with the Koloff
Right.
name. They're the reason the legacy thrives, honestly.
Right.
So absolutely, I see bits of my grandfather in them naturally. But as far as who I think replicates him the most, Neil, I think is doing an outstanding job taking up that torch and passing it on the way that my grandfather would.
Yeah. What is your role in this family tour?
Well, I'm not shaving my head, so I'm officially the one that has hair. Um,
I
I
mean, look, I
definitely,
can join in. I'm just
you can
saying.
be on the Koloff tour. I think you'd be great. I definitely think I'm more of the legacy side of it. I
Mhm.
don't wrestle, obviously, so
Right.
I can't go and wrestle. I can't go and talk to these people about stories and memories because I'm in my 20s. I really don't have them. I can't tell you techniques or anything like that, but I can sit and talk about my grandfather and keep that legacy alive. You know, you see these posters, and my grandfather is on these posters. And so I've had people comment, like, don't you know he's gone? And I said, yes, but my grandmother and I think, represent him. And the purpose of that is for him to be there through us. So that I think is what my purpose is to represent the start of it.
Have you ever thought about you being the one as a manager, walking maybe Neil out to the ring, being that Russian woman?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think we're going to try to work some things out. Not quite sure what yet, but you've not seen the last of the Koloffs. There's some tricks up our sleeves for sure that I think will be very very fun.
Now, we can't end this podcast without talking about your grandmother, Ivan's
Mm.
wife, because more times than not, just about, and it's funny because I've heard this more so with professional wrestlers, that the wives or the mothers were the backbone of the family.
Mm-hmm.
The professional wrestlers might have been the face of the family, the ones that are well known, but it's usually the wives, the mothers that are the backbone. Talk to me about your grandmother. What was it like for her to be married to a professional wrestler? Her sacrifices.
They actually met at a wrestling match and were inseparable from every moment after that. From the time they started dating to the time they got married, she was there constantly, was
Right.
always there. Every wrestling match, every promo shoot, everything, every autograph signing, they were inseparable. They were definitely soulmates in every way, shape, and form. And you
Right.
know, tons of stuff happens before, but once you meet that person that God has for you, nothing else matters. You know,
Right.
and I think she definitely healed a part of him that from his past he needed. And
Mhm.
I don't think people realize that enough of how much she supported him and how much she loved him and he loved her truly. And I don't think he could have continued his career without my grandmother. She was a support that he needed more than I think he realized.
Yeah, that's awesome. A couple of questions from some fans.
Okay.
Um, Robbie Idol, again, another co-host of mine. He wrestled WCW. He says Ivan was awesome. He was just truly a classy man. Michael McCurdy, he co-hosts of Wrestling Memories, and he's on our show as well. He says, Michael, you have to send me the question. I cannot remember what you wanted me. I'm sorry. I can't remember. So send it to me again. But he also said Nikita is a great person. I've had the opportunity to interview him before. Evan Greensburg says, I've been attending live wrestling since 1974. I am totally jaded, and Ivan Koloff is easily on my top 10 heels of all time list, and definitely on the Mount Rushmore of foreign heels. Today's fans probably didn't realize just how truly great he was. And Michael says that's one of the questions I asked him during an interview was how he felt the night he defeated Bruno.
Oh, wow.
We talked about. Yeah. What is the one thing that you think Ivan Koloff will want his fans to take away from his professional wrestling career?
Hmm. How much blood, sweat, and tears were poured into that. It's kind of a cliche phrase, but really breaking that down, he bled for it. He cried over it. He sweat over it. This was everything that he was. He died for this, essentially. He loved it more than anything other than his family. Wrestling was right there next to Jesus and his family. I don't think people realize about his career how passionate he was about it. And I think that's what makes him one of the greats, is because that exertion of passion is very visible in the ring and outside of it.
Right. Couple more questions. What is the one thing you think Ivan would want taken out of professional wrestling today? Or one thing maybe he want professional wrestlers to cut out? Something that they're doing that he's like, don't do that. Any idea?
He'd probably say, just shut up. Just shut up and wrestle.
Yeah.
No, I love me a good work, and I love me a good soap opera. Like, I like watching it, truly. I do like it. But he'd be like, I don't think, obviously people still get hurt, but I think it's a little too guarded almost. And I think he'd be like, just shut up and hit him.
Right.
I definitely think he'd want people just to stop talking so much, hit the mic out their hand, and just go for it.
What is the one advice that you think that he would give the young talent today? But you could kind of go into the sharp and listen type deal. I get that, but is there something else that you really think that he would really hone on, that he would want this younger talent to know?
If you love it, don't give it up. I think often enough people get caught up, especially now in the indies and in professional wrestling now. I think people get caught up in the business and the monetary value of it.
Right.
And especially a lot of indie guys that I see, they don't get paid enough for it. It's not worth it. And they let it die out. If you love it, don't give it up. I think he would very much push that of chase your passions, man. Just go for it. You don't know what you can do. If it's something you truly love, give it your all, or don't be in it.
Two more things. One, anything you want to promote, the dates. I know you guys are doing, again, the reunion. And as well as, I want to end this on a Ivan Koloff story that you would share with us.
Okay. Well, as far as dates, we have March 21st. We will be at the big event in New York, in Brentwood, New York. I'm very excited about that. I've never been to New York, so I think it's going to be an amazing time. We've got the whole family together, which I don't think people realize how big it is that we have all of us together. Our Google Calendar looks like a bag of Skittles. We are so chaotic, all of us, trying to like, well, no, I'm doing this and you're doing that. It's a big deal, and we are so thrilled to bring it to you and try our hardest to bring it to you. A lot more dates are going to be coming up after this, but March 21st, come on out and see us at the big event in New York. Also, a big Ivan Koloff thing happening is June 6th in Benson, North Carolina. That Ivan Koloff tag team match that I mentioned got me back into this whole world of wrestling is going to have its next event on June 6th. It's going to be in Benson, North Carolina. Biggest one yet. He's doing an outstanding job carrying on this legacy. The Koloffs will not be able to be there, but we're going to have some way to be involved for sure. There's definitely some things you've not seen from us, and it's definitely something everyone should check out if they're in the area.
Awesome. Your favorite story that you'd like to share?
Let's see. Going more towards where this interview was catered to, this is a story about my grandfather that is completely unwrestling related whatsoever, but to prove to you, the relationship me and my grandfather had was unlike any you've ever seen. So, my grandfather's house, I refused to sleep in the bedroom at his house. He had a spare bedroom right next to where we would work out all the time. Refused to sleep in there. And here's the reason why. When I was probably about 9 or 10, I had him read me a bedtime story. It was a Snow White book about the 7 dwarves baking a cake. And he read it to me, and all the dwarves had different voices. The book was pink and sparkly for imaginary effects, right? And so I'm sitting there, I've got my princess blanket on and everything like that. And I kissed him goodnight and he left. And as soon as he closed the door, I see what I thought was a spider, just like a granddaddy long leg spider. Deathly afraid of spiders. So I get out of bed. I go screaming out the door, Papa, there's a spider. You got to come kill it. Papa, there's a spider. He's like, I was just in there. There was no spider. I said, no, yes, there was. Yes, there was. And I freak out. And so he was like, baby, I don't know what to tell you. He was on his knees looking under the bed. He moved the bed, moved the dressers. And I'm sitting there crying. And this little kid is telling him there's a spider in this room and you're going to find it. And he goes, baby, there is not a spider in this room. And so I said, well, I'm not sleeping. And he says, just go in the living room. And so I slept on the couch that night. And every other time until he died, I slept on the couch in his living room because I refused. He never found the spider.
That's awesome.
But just for that imagery, he was holding the princess book, trying to kill a spider. It was probably dust or something. But I refused to sleep in that room. But yeah, that's
awesome.
an Ivan Koloff story for you.
Thank you for sharing that. Look, I have zero doubts that your grandfather's so proud of you. I think that you're doing an amazing job representing the Koloff family. I really do. You are a delight to speak to. You're so very smart, great personality. Keep doing what you're doing. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. I follow you on social media, so I know how busy you are. So I really appreciate that. And for your, anytime you're promoting something, please add me to your tag list. Tag me so I can put it on my Facebook page to make
Absolutely,
sure
yeah.
as well. Thank you so much again. I would love anyone in the family, the family reunion tour, get with me, give them my information. Like to have each and all of them on so we can continuously promote this. I really appreciate it.
I'll go on and send it in the text message after this, and we'll try to get us on, okay?
That'll work. Thank you so much, and you have a great rest of your week.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Guys, please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Tomorrow night, myself, the cooker Bob Cook, and Robbie Ido will be talking about Monday Night Raw. Did we like it? Did we love it? Was it just okay? Don't know. Join us to find out. Until then, you guys have a great night. Good night again, Melody. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.